All right, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad to be here with you tonight, guys. Thanks for hanging out. And we will just, so tonight is all about, so obviously we're closing cart on our Start Your Farm Intensive. So if you guys have questions around that, feel free to shout them out. But it's also just like, ask me anything. If you guys have questions about, our business, about the farm we're setting up, about how things are going. We just hired our first full-time farm employee. So if you want to ask questions about how we're doing for hiring, all that kind of stuff, more than happy to go over that with you guys all tonight. So it's really just an open discussion forum. You better put some questions in the chat there so we have something to talk about. But it's really kind of more focused on you guys tonight. So I'm actually wearing a coat because it is still kind of chilly here. We do live in an 1890s farmhouse, so it's double brick, so it's relatively thick, but there's still definitely a bunch of holes, and so it has been kind of yes, it has been kind of cold. Yes, Dan, my beard is getting a little bit longer. But yeah, beard. Yes, it is. I do need to shave. The thing is, like, it's this time of day. We're not going anywhere, so the only people I actually see is you guys. Well, I do go across the street, which is where the machine shop is. So actually, I've got some things here. So I'm not going to show you tonight, but we're working on some fun stuff. Let's just put it that way. We may actually pull a patent on two of them. We probably will do patents on both of them because I think it's a cool enough idea, and it's unique enough, and it will help enough people that we are going to be patenting both of them. We've got some prototypes done, and we already need to go back and do some more prototypes, but it's already well working, and we're kind of excited about it. All right. Tim's asking, plastered walls. Yes, Tim. And actually the wall to this side right here, you can't see it, but it actually is brick. So from the basement all the way to the top of the second floor. So it goes right up into the attic. There's a brick wall that goes up to the center of the house. And I can't imagine how many tons of brick that all is, but it's definitely pretty cool. So Sean, good to see you tonight. So yeah, guys, your questions. I know Stan, you guys are probably got tomatoes going. I'm looking forward to see those coming along. I know you guys have a ton of snow, so that's we've got about like 8 or 10 inches here. And so actually I was trying to talk to some excavators here because we're getting ready to kind of try to put our greenhouse pad in, and they were like, well, we can't come out now. Because there's too much snow, we can't, there's not going to see a good delineation of the ground. So that's going to have to wait until we lose the snow, which might be next week. Although even Friday, we're supposed to go down to 3 degrees again. So Tim says, very familiar with the 1700, 1900 homes, all handmade brick. Yeah, Tim, it is. And then of course, our basement is field stones, and then they plaster the inside of the field stones. And yeah, Sean, the foot of snow. I had to plow twice with the tractor, which normally in Ohio here we get like one snowstorm and it's like 3 inches and it's gone the next day. So definitely nothing's happened there. But it is this year. We're glad we have the tractor. We actually plowed this last storm. I plowed 5 different driveways out. So it was a good investment. And the other thing too is these were all neighbors' driveways. So because of what we're doing here locally is a little bit unique, we're really focused right now on building community. And so part of that building community is going ahead and plowing the neighbors' driveways because that's building that reciprocity with you. So you're nice to them, they're nice to you. And when you go up for the development plan in town, they're there saying, hey, we want this to go through because these are great neighbors. So that's kind of what we're focused on right now with that. I mean, obviously I would love to be able to charge each of those people $50 and, made part of my tractor payment. But I think right now we're just focused on, again, that social goodwill is so much more important than that whatever money we could be pulling in from that. So that's kind of where we're focusing on right now. Yeah, the other thing that's happening right now on the farm, and I'll just keep chatting if you guys don't have any questions, is the profit scaping. So we're doing some significant work on that. I just got a kind of introductory design back from the designer, and that is actually going to be content. Hopefully we'll be able to make that content in April and March, end of March, probably that the whole design will be done. But if you guys are interested in adding another profit stream to your farm, foodscaping or profitscaping can be very, very lucrative. So my friend Matt has got a company out in St. Louis. They now have a team of like 8, and they focus just on basically it's a landscape, but everything is edible in the landscape. So it's such a unique idea. There are a number of folks across the US that do it, and it's very profitable. So we're going to kind of show you how that's done. We're going to show you the whole design that we've done for the Farm on Central. That will be content in our Small Farm University. But you'll also get that design. And the other thing too is with the design, they're putting together an entire master plan with all the descriptions for all the different varieties and what they're planting on the farm and how that's going to that's what the income that's going to generate. So we'll also run a profit report. So we're kind of like put in all the different things we've got, and then we'll run like what actually is going to make us money and how much money that should make. Think about like rhubarb, just for one crop here, rhubarb. It's amazing to me how few people grow that, because the profit margin that's on that. So every plant gives you probably six bunches, a good plant, maybe 8 if you really do a good job with it, 8 bunches at $3 to $4 a bunch. So at $3 a bunch, that's $18 to $20. So that's $5 a square foot. And basically all you do is keep it strawed, and it can be in like the weirdest shaped little places. So you have a side of your barn that can't do anything there. Throw some rhubarb in, lots of manure, lots of compost, and then just in the spring you go and pull your bunches off, and then you don't have to touch it for the rest of the year. So little maintenance. We would once a year we would throw down some compost with the spreader, and then straw the entire section. So just take our straw blower and blow straw on. You could easily just use leaves or something, but very, very low maintenance. Stan says, here's one to discuss. As you know, we made a huge increase in greenhouse space. We made an error on making that increase going into winter. The 6 weeks of no production was a huge cost. Yeah. So Stan, what you're doing, you basically, is you're saying you're running behind. You've got all these now expensive assets on your farm, which are not generating income. So obviously, yes, trying to get a greenhouse up is preferably in August or September, because then you can get it planted for the fall and have it full of product all winter long. And maybe with your hydroponic systems, you can go into it later. So you don't have to do it right off. But absolutely. So we're putting up our tunnel. I mean, on one aspect, Stan, I would have been happy to get mine up in December because then going into March, we're not struggling, because right now we're actually contracting with other growers to be growing our first round of plants. So basically they're not showing up to the 3rd week of March with our greenhouse. And literally the day it finishes, we'll be like, hanging the heaters, putting in the gas, and then going ahead and putting electric to it, just so that we can get stuff planted in there, because that's going to be really super important. Yeah, so basically you're probably running like 6 or 8 months behind in revenue. So, I mean, the revenue will kick in March or April, but right now I'm sure you've got all this expense out, and that's challenging. Sean says, question for me would be, we will be market. Stan says, yes, but also the cost of production. A new partner is modern gas or gas. Yes. But thankfully, Stan, you're not in Texas and you're not paying electric. And my question, are you using propane gas? Because that's, thankfully, I'm sure you're using propane with where you're located. Where we are, we're right on a natural gas. So that's going to be so cheap for us to produce this year, which is going to be really nice. Back to Sean's questions, though. We will be at market farming on 1.5 acres. Will an 8x12 walk-in cooler be sufficient, or should I go bigger? Sean, great question. Now, there is no one ranking for walk-in coolers. What I will tell you is that you always want more walk-in cooler space. So we put in a 8x12, And we're not too small right now, but because we're storing mushroom blocks for a while, we are feeling that we're pretty small. So that is a little bit of a struggle for us right now, as I'm like looking at the space and knowing I want another cooler. And actually last week, I saw a cooler. It was on auction. It was going for $500, and so I bid the guy up to $2,200. But the problem is I wasn't able to see the cooler. And if you're not able to see the cooler, I didn't have the confidence to go even higher than that. So it ended up going for about $2,600, which probably for the size of it, what was contained was actually pretty good. Yeah, it's and it had display doors on one side. So what we were going to do is take the whole thing and do one whole side of our retail stand was going to be that cooler, which would have been really nice. So right now we're just going to buy some reach-in coolers, I think, if I can't find another one. So 8x12 will probably do you, Sean, for the first year. My other thing would be I wouldn't go bigger. I would double it. So I would give yourself 2 coolers, one for warm and one for cool. So that's what I would do if you do have the money for that. And again, if you can build a bigger shell and then just wall it off in the middle, then that's totally possible as well. And then you can just use a little muffin fan to push the air back and forth. Mary says, hey, Michael, just started your Start Your Farm Intensive and am loving it. We are at the very beginning of our venture, and I'm wondering if you have any recommendations on organizations or firms that may be good to look at for market research, particularly market in specific regions, cities for various products. We're looking to focus on vegetables, and we're in Denver. All input welcome. Hey, Mary, great question. I'm so excited that you're enjoying it. Yeah, that course, again, we started that last spring, started building that last spring, and it has really turned out to be a really good deep dive. I mean, it's such solid information through there, and it's the course I wish I had when I was young. But let's go back to market research. What I would do, Denver's exploding right now still. Still doing well. I mean, Salt Lake City also is doing really well, and actually Salt Lake City is exploding even more than Denver. Good food scene already in Denver, so it's already going to have a educated clientele. So I don't really know of any what I would do is reach out to Colorado. Does Colorado have a organic? Some of you folks may be on tonight. Does Colorado have an organic organization? Let's see. Colorado Farm to Market. No, that's I think that's their. I don't think they have Well, here's a 2017 article that talks about Colorado farmers going organic to meet rising demand. The Valley Organic Association. So the VOGA, I would make sure you check out them. So they're the Valley Organic Growers Association. They're in the North Fork Valley. So check out them. Also go and see if there's any community engagement organizations and stuff. And then just start going to the farmers market. So that's where I also love to do my research, is just kind of wander the farmers markets, visit all the health food stores, see the names of the farms that are coming in, see where the holes are in the marketplace. So what I would do is go through the Johnny's catalog, make a list of all the different vegetables in there, and then go to the farmers market and check off, do they have this? What's the price? And then because once you start looking at the prices, then you start getting an idea of what the market is and what the market will bear. Then you can also look at the quality of the stand. I mean, are they doing the 10 things that we teach in our marketing course? The couple of them are, obviously getting emails, offering upsells, offering on-farm events. There's all the things that we tell people to offer that's really going to make them the next level of their farm. So that's what I would recommend. Doing that kind of research yourself. But I mean, you can go after data, but I find sometimes that data is just so aggregated and it's not specific enough for what you're looking for, that you might not get you might not get the actual data you need. The other thing too is just start talking to the local farmers. You don't have to tell them about what you're trying to do. You can just literally just start chatting them up at the farmers market, or start chatting them up on their farm. See if you can go volunteer for a couple of days, just kind of find out, if they're meeting demand, what their marketing is. Again, there's always going to be a couple different types of farmers. There's going to be the farmers that are on top of it, that are crushing it, that are growing, that are treating it like a business. And then there's going to be the farmers that are just growing and complaining because they're not treating it as a business and not marketing like they should be. So you obviously, you're going to have to feel around if you feel like they're on top of it, or if they're just, complaining because they're just not doing a good job of managing their system. So that's always going to be something you have to kind of think about as you're kind of trying to suss out from them what information they have to share. Tim is asking, hopefully, Mary, that answered your question. Tim is asking, which brand did you purchase, and which were you referring to, the walk-in cooler or the greenhouse? So yeah, go ahead and share that. And yes. Yes, Mary. Yes, great advice. I see what I'm saying about the aggregated research. Looks like I need to dive in and go hands-on. I would, Mary, and we'll have some Q&A sessions too. So I think our first one starts Friday night. I think we're going to get an email out to you the next little bit, but we'll be able to go in deeper too, and kind of like we can jump on and go back and forth with what that research might want to look like in a little bit more detail on Friday night's Q&A. So yeah, absolutely, we can go for that. Yeah, so while I'm waiting for Tim to come back with the brand of what he's looking for, the cool thing about the Start Your Farm Intensive is, a lot of people buy these courses or buy trainings, but they teach you a very specific type of farming. The problem is every farm is going to be different. So, and actually on our farm, we're going to be running 3 different growing systems. We're running a tractor growing system. We'll be running more of a walking tractor growing system, and then probably moving into more of a no-till system in the tunnels as we go along. So, I mean, that's the thing is with Intensive, we really spend the first 10 lessons on helping you figure out what your farm's going to look like. Because again, there's so many different things. We have the enterprise cheat sheet where we go into, I think it's 17 or 19 different enterprises that we walk people through step by step, or not step by step, but like if you want to start doing a dairy, here's kind of like the problems with a dairy. Here's the advantages of a dairy. I mean, obviously it's high profit, can be high profit, but it's also very high expense. My friend Ben that started the company with me, and actually you probably guys got an email about him. They're now over 800 dairy shares, and they're actually looking to buy out their financing companies from their lending, just because they're actually making really good money now. So they've done a fabulous job over the last 3 years now of just growing from first 100 shares to 200 to 300, 400, 500, 600. Now they're at 850 or something. Raw milk herd shares. Now, when they started out too, they started out completely different with saying, Ben told me I hate retail. I never want to do a herd share again. I'm going to just sell wholesale. And so they had a partner organization that they were going to sell all their milk to, that was going to bottle it and basically deliver it to and make cheese out of it. But about 3 months into starting their company, they realized that other company was probably going to go out of business. And so because of that, they had to rapidly change and go back to retail. And Ben says now he's glad he did. Obviously, they did a lot of work to get their marketing systems in place, and now they have customer service people and delivery people, so Ben gets to do what he wants to do, which is farm. But yeah, starting up a retail operation at the start is going to always be a little bit of a challenge. MP Google says, thinking about starting a small commercial mushroom farm and wanted to hear about your success with mushroom farms. Let's see here. Then you also kind of go on and say, notice a number of educational resources from people, organizations teaching people how to farm mushrooms commercially, but they also stopped farming commercially. Mushroom farming is too labor intensive, not lucrative enough. They pivot to education and kits. Let's see. So I can just rattle off the educational folks out there. You got Grow Cycle in the UK. Grow Cycle still runs a very successful mushroom operation, mushroom business. They still grow mushrooms and sell mushrooms. Obviously, they've moved into kits because there's also a good margin there. The kits have exploded, like double or tripled in the US and around the world because of the pandemic. People are looking for something to grow. And so obviously mushroom kits are very easy. So yeah, I mean, then you've got, Adam and Adam was in our summit. Adam and Jordan were in our summit. They're still very much only really doing growing. We're trying to convince them to do some education because they're really good at it. But they are actually only doing growing. You've got Eric Myers and I think he's in Kansas. He's definitely still growing. Yes, he's now moving more into doing supplying for the mushroom industry, but definitely still doing growing. He and I chat back and forth about this, that, and the other right now. Even a lot of your spawn producers. So you've got North Spore, you've got Cap and Stem, you've got TR. They're all still doing growing at some sort or another. So, yeah, I mean, both are very profitable. I mean, we bring in a block at $11 landed or $10 landed. So that's basically shipped to our door. It's $10 or $11. And we're growing 2 to 3 pounds of mushrooms out at an average price of $16 a pound. So we're still we're doubling our money on that block, if not doing 2.5 times. And then the blocks go out into the field. And once we thaw out in the spring, those will all still flush out a few flushes of oysters. And then we'll take those and put those into our compost for our seed starting compost. So again, runs all the way through, really good. We're really happy with kind of like how our mushroom room turned out. And I was just out there harvesting. Today we harvested 9 pounds. Now this week we're on an off week. So we're producing some local CSAs right now. We're not really not pushing retail sales locally just because the bandwidth issues. But we are supplying a online marketplace and then 2 CSAs. And so next week is when those will ramp up. So we turn the temperature down at the day we harvest. So Wednesday of last week, the temperature would have come down. So the 50 degrees, we're running temperature of 50 degrees. And so today the temperature bumped to 55. And then by Sunday, we're bumped to 60 to push another whole flush of mushrooms out. So yeah. December Fields is asking, are bees apiary on that list or brought up in the course? So yeah, we actually we do list apiaries on there if you are interested. Now, again, we're not going to go through, be clear, we're not going through every single number for an operation in this. So we're not providing you a complete like A to Z. This is what an apiary will cost you. What we do is we walk you through the different steps that you need to go through to figure out what that will. So we help you build those enterprise budgets and kind of show you kind of like, so think about bees. And again, the thing is we do have the 4 coaching sessions too. So if you are like, hey, I want to talk about bees, I can talk about bees. We've raised bees before, definitely familiar with the different cost analyses and all of that. So the cool thing about bees is that you don't really have to own a lot of land to run them. Is you can find a lot of people that can put those bees on their property. So you can, or even in a city on a rooftop. So the land requirements for bees are minimal. Your cost of buying the hives and stuff is a little bit of an initial investment. And it takes some time. So whereas with a radish, you plant it and 21 days later, you're harvesting a bunch of radishes. With bees, you're buying the nuke in the spring or buying the hive in the spring. You're going to run it to the fall. Probably about July or August, you'll pull off your first honey. It depends on too how you market it too. So if you're value adding with value adding, you can do honey straws, you can do took-home honey, you can do mead, you can do salad dressings, you can do barbecue rubs. There's so much you can do with honey. When we did have Michael Jordan on the podcast, he went on and on about, I think he's like with 10 hives, you can do, I'm not going to quote it because I actually forget the numbers he said. But if you go onto his on the podcast, he definitely shares in depth like what the numbers are for that. Let's see. Tim, back to Sean. Other than as soon as possible, what minimum soil temperature should be looking for to start my spinach, lettuce, carrots, radishes, early season crops? So in the ground, we plant those things as soon as we can plant. So if I had open space and tunnels right now, I would be planting those crops, okay? Even though it's February right now, plant them in there. It's not really going to hurt. You're going to start getting some sun over the next couple of weeks. That's going to really start to make them grow. Absolutely. If you're planting in the greenhouse, you want a minimum temperature of 60 degrees. Onions and leeks can go lower. But one of the cool things, the Inner Small Farm University, and just in my world, I get to pick the brains of some of the smartest people in the U.S. And one of those is Jack Mannix up at Walker Farm in Vermont. So I was able to pick his brain about them and bedding plants. And so basically his biggest thing is you never run your greenhouse temperature below 60 degrees. Just below that, except for the leeks and onions. Below that, you just run into disease and stunting. So you always want to keep it at 60 minimum. So if you're starting seeds and stuff, I would recommend starting a germination chamber, and then you can move them out to a greenhouse. And Tim's asking greenhouse, what brand we went with. So we looked at a couple different ones. I love Rimmel houses. They're a great company to work with. The problem is they weren't able. They don't do their own installations, and I need an installation. And so they contracted a third-party company, and the cost of that third-party company to install the greenhouse was really expensive. So we ended up going with a company down in Kentucky. It's an Amish company. And I will let you guys know after they install it how it is. A couple of friends of mine have used them, been very happy with them. But you're going to get a handwritten invoice or quote, and you really have to know what you're doing, because again, there's really not a catalog that you can go through and say, I want this, this, and this. It's more of a, hey, talk on the phone. And because we teach on greenhouses, I can just tell them exactly what I want, and we can go back and forth on that. So they're providing the greenhouse, and they're also providing all the bows for our caterpillar tunnels. So we are actually putting up 4 caterpillar tunnels with 14 gauge bent bows. So we're taking 24-foot pipe, and we're doing, hey, thanks for that. And we're doing the entire is going to be one piece. So we're not, how the Farmer's Friend or these other ones have multiple pieces hooked together. That's weak. Those fail. They're not good. You want a single piece of steel the whole way of the bow, except for the extensions. We're putting 2-foot extensions on the bottom, so it will be 9.5 feet tall. So it's going to be a pretty tall caterpillar. But it is one rolled piece of steel the entire way, which is going to be super, super strong. So that's what we're going with. They're doing the rolling for us on that. Otherwise, we would probably bend them ourselves. But one of the cool things is with these 4 build out is we're going to film, because we're basically bypassing buying any of those parts, like a finished kit for the caterpillars. So at the end of building those caterpillars, we're going to do a course on doing your own caterpillars for half the cost of what's out there. So again, if you want to buy a kit, those kits are nice. They come, you just assemble it. But if you're a little bit DIY, you can build your own for half the cost of what they're listed. And you don't have to wait 6 weeks. You can get the steel ASAP. Let's see. Mary's asking. Mary is asking. I have been outbid on my these racks I wanted. Rats. I had another auction going on tonight, and I was bidding for some rolling racks, which look kind of cool. Mary says, Small Farm University looks pretty cool too. Is there a lot of overlap between the intensive and Small Farm U, or does Small Farm U pick up where the intensive leaves off? Great question, Mary. So yes, absolutely. So for us, the Start Your Farm Intensive is kind of like the basis. We want you to go through that. We want you to get an idea of how to build your farm, the processes, the numbers, the funding, that. And then Small Farm University is excellent choice after that. So we have, I don't know how many 100 people we have in that, but that's more of our mentorship program. And we're actually switching that up here shortly, pretty extensively. There's going to be a lot of different changes coming here in the next couple months on that. But yeah, it's a great program. I was actually just messaging with one of our SFU members right before this. And let me see. One of the things he says, just because there's a long text back and forth. He says, you've got a better community than anywhere else. And this guy's in every other program out there. And he says, I said, wish more of these people that investing in other programs would grab the U, because this stuff is more important for where they are in their business. So again, this guy, the thing about this guy, I'm messaging back and forth. And with the cool thing of the Small Farm University is because it's a mentorship, because it's a ongoing relationship, we really get to know the farmers in there and get to kind of help connect with them and really kind of deep dive into their challenges and their problems and what they're facing on their farm. And yeah, so I mean, we're back and forth, going back and forth. And the cool thing is it's not just me mentoring in there. And so that is the one really cool thing about our Small Farm University, where you've got some of these other programs where it's just one figurehead teaching one thing. We have a full array. So we have farmers doing all different scales. We've got farmers doing 60 acres of vegetables that are mentors in there. We got farms doing 1.5 acres of vegetables in there. We got farms doing a half acre of vegetables in there that are mentors. We have like 6 main mentors in the Small Farm University. And then obviously we have the hundreds of members as well. Let's see. So that's that. And then Rhonda's looking at what brand of greenhouse would you recommend? Looking at Gothic style, live in Nebraska, or what are greenhouses necessities? I'm just starting out. Rhonda, actually, if you're not in our Small Farm University, I would recommend that. Or we have a brand new course coming out with Ray Tyler called the I think it's High Tunnel Basics, or no, it's High Tunnel Buying Guide. It's going to be low dollar. So like 27, 37 bucks. I'm not exactly sure what we're putting the price on that for. And it will walk you through exactly what you're asking, the necessities, venting, roll-up sides, steel, companies. We have a list of the vetted companies that we like to work with. We walk through, obviously, plastic choices, orientation, drainage, working with different companies, all that kind of stuff. Definitely want Gothic if you're in Nebraska. A couple different companies out there. If it's your first tunnel, you want to go with someone that's going to give you really good instructions. So that's what I might recommend, someone like Rimmel for that, because Rimmel has fabulous instructions. They'll walk you through, hold your hand every step of the way. If you've done a tunnel or two before, you might want to go with someone like Zimmerman. A little bit cheaper, but the problem is you have to know what you're doing because their instructions aren't great. Or if you want someone to come out and build it for you, you might want to go with someone like Nifty Hoops. And if you work with any of these companies, mention I sent you because then they owe me. Let's see. December Field says, time is our worry. We catch wild storms, but can take a year to harvest honey. So December, let's talk a little bit about this, because I actually am working with a local guy here. Oh, that's good. That is doing bees, and his business model is he charges people to remove bees. So he has called every single exterminator and every single contractor, and he says, look, my business is I love to take care of your bee problem. So if you have someone who has a bees in their house, just give me a call. I charge very reasonable. So he usually splits it with the exterminator. So the exterminator can charge $150 or whatever it is to remove a hive. He comes in, he only charges $75. They walk away with some money. He walks away with a little bit of cash and the bees. And so he's built his business by that and getting just free hives. And sometimes he has to requeen them if they're a little bit crazy, but definitely is a way to get bees. And the other cool thing is so many of these people are these are fascinating. These people that are getting the bees taken out, sometimes they want to upgrade and buy some honey while he's there. So that's always definitely something to work with. So Stan saying a large farmer friend uses his mushroom blocks as media for his greenhouse tomatoes on drip, doing brown portobello. So he's doing actually regular mushroom and stuff. So Stan, I'm actually I'm trying to think about getting a couple truckloads of mushroom compost from PA. Stuff around here is a little on the expensive side, and I think it can come in cheaper from PA. I wish I could find a mushroom producer closer than basically Kenneth Square, because it's like 8 hours from Kenneth Square, so the trucking's going to kill me. I mean, the thing is, the product's free. Basically, it's $1 a yard when they load it. They can fit 40 to 60 yards on a truck, and then they kick it out here. But the problem is that trucking, because those walking floor trailers, which they have to ship it on, are only a certain size. And they only go to a certain radius. They don't necessarily come out here to pick up products. So that's the problem that we're running into. Yeah, Tim, you're good. Yeah, go with those folks. They're good. I would definitely recommend them. They've been great to work with so far. I obviously haven't seen the tunnel up yet, but they've been great, and they did a lot of good stuff for Ray. Sean says, I've been enjoying SFU very much. A lot of great information, and we'll answer 99% of your questions you have. Michael will answer the rest. Well, that and the awesome folks that we have in there. So it's not just me in there. But yeah, I mean, between our mentor team in there, we have probably 100 years of farming between us. Absolutely. between the different folks we got in there. And again, it's not, half acre farm. I go visit other farms and talk about their farms. These are farmers that have been in the farming industry 30, 40 years and just have forgotten more things than I will ever know in the farming industry. Keep the questions coming, folks. This has been good. Who has finished their farm plan for the year? I know that's something right now. People are trying to finish up, getting their seeds ordered. Actually, behind me, I've got a couple of boxes. Yeah, great for you, though. You can get it for practically free, Stan. A couple boxes of my Johnny's seeds here. I've got some other seed companies coming in. My wife is actually doing inventory tonight on the rest of our seeds from last year. So we do that. We won't germ test everything from last year, but we definitely will do like weighing the packages and just updating the amounts in the packages. And we keep an inventory. So we keep a actual on our master planning sheet. We have another sheet that's off of that, which then will tie into that. And it will basically show us what we've got inventory and then what we need for that year. And so that will just help us, make sure we're doing checks as we're going through the season, especially this year, because getting some of these seeds is just really, really challenging. Absolutely really challenging to get some of the seeds this year. Although Johnny's did make a mistake and send me something that was I think it was like $60, one of those fancy greenhouse cucumbers, which I could not get. And for some reason, I don't know if I complained a little loudly and someone just threw it in to be nice to me and they just snagged it. But it literally, you could not get it in the store. I could not order it and it showed up here. So again, thanks to Johnny's for whoever there was making my day. Jerry saying, I've finished and I've been growing the last 3 weeks. Awesome, Jerry. Was working in our greenhouse. Tunnels don't work well here in Minnesota. I think Montana is what you're saying. Yeah, Jerry, a little bit challenging, Montana. Are you dealing with wind? Is wind the challenge, or is it just them being so small they don't heat up and you don't get much growth during the wintertime? Because both of those can be a problem up there. If it's wind you're dealing with, we may have something that we're working on that might actually help you with that. Yes, Tim says all seeds in and cataloged. Yeah. I think part of my problem, Tim and Jerry, is it's one of those things like, they say the cobbler's kids never get shoes or always shoeless or something. But like here, it's like, I know what I need to do, but it's like the confines of anything else I've got on my time with running multiple businesses and having a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old is making me slower than I want to be on some of this. Stan says, have you looked into the bleach treatment for the solanaceous high tunnel crops? Helps for faster germination and limits damping off cornels of paper. I will have to check into that, Stan. We have done we have done hot water treating of seeds, which also helps with germination and will kill things like black rot on brassicas and that sort of thing. So we have done that. And that can be done with just a Instapot or even even I think people are now using, I think they're actually using some crock pots for that too. So yeah, definitely interested in that. I think we're going to do ungrafted this year in our tunnel, just because one of the things with grafted plants is it takes a little bit more management. And this year it's going to be pretty lean. It's going to be basically me and a full-time employee, and we have a full array of potted plants to do, horticulture to do, and we have the store to build and stock and get going, and we have a bunch of other infrastructure products. So I think we're going to just pass on the grafted plants this year, even though I know that they can produce more faster, especially since we're also going to the brand new soil. So we're not going to have the disease problems this first year. I may be regretting that in August if we have disease problems, but I think we'll be good on that. All right. Yeah, send me the link. And it's easy. Yes, it would be a heck of a lot easier than the the heat treating. Absolutely. Now, here's a question for you. This is something we're kind of playing around with this year. Is if you notice when you're doing crop planting, obviously you need a date to run off of for your crops. Well, some people, more flower farmers are using the number of the week. So instead of, let's say, got my handy cheat sheet here. Instead of saying I'm going to plant them on the 5th of July, they're saying I'm planting them week 27. So that is something I'm kind of playing with, and we're actually sticking into our plan because we came down to we usually plant stuff once a week. We very rarely are doing 2 seedings a week. The problem is when you move from one year to the next, like moving from 2021 to 2022, the formulas don't necessarily recognize the 52 weeks in a year, and we'll then add it to that. So it doesn't really work for transfer. But that is definitely something that that we're playing around with. It's been interesting just to kind of, it makes a lot of the things easier. When you're running when you have to go back 4 weeks for seeding date and then forward 16 weeks for harvest date, it makes that a little bit easier. It's just easier to look at, but it's obviously going to mean that we're going to have to memorize week 29 is what again, or weeks 22 is what again. So week 22 is technically the first week of June in 2021. And obviously, as we march through the year, because we're going week to week, we'll know we're in week 16. And then the next week, we'll pull out all the sheets for week 17. The other thing I looked at into doing was the Julian calendar, because when we do food safety, we always use the Julian calendar because it's easier to write just 3 numbers instead of doing a hash and the other stuff. And it's easier to go forward dates and back dates. But anyway, it's just kind of playing around with that, kind of seeing where that lies. Lacey says, time management, overwhelm, where to start tips. Lacey, that is the never-ending problem for farmers. I mean, give me a raise of hands, guys, or just give me a yes in the chat if you struggle with time management and just overwhelmed with everything going on, because I don't know I know a few farmers which don't struggle with that. But they are the expert farmer aspect, as they have been farming for a number of years and they built teams around them. So those first early years are always going to be super challenging. But what I'll say about that is the first thing is you have to have your plan. So obviously the crop plan, the harvest plan, the seeding plan, the row cover plan, the spray plan, the weeding plan even is always going to be something we work on in the wintertime. Because when you have that, then basically, at the beginning of the week, you're holding up just a bunch of the pieces of paper. You're sitting down with the team going over, this is what needs to be planted, this is what's going to be seeded, and then you're also part of that doing your weekly field walk. And your weekly field walk is going to basically give you the adjustments you're making to that plant. So if it's super wet, you can't seed, you're going to say, okay, we can't get the seeding in this week or till Thursday, so we're going to have to push that. But what can we do right now? So obviously that. Then the other big thing we'd use is whiteboards. And again, we have an entire time management system. We have it in our More Time, More Money course. That's the first course you go through when you join the Small Farm University, is that More Time, More Money course. And we walk you through all the templates we use for that, like the weekly field walks, the month-by-month plans, the other thing. And the other thing we'll do too, so we have all that information in there. But the other thing we'll do too is we have an app. I have an app on my phone called, let's see, where is this app? It's called Now Then. So I don't know if you guys can see it there, the bottom little corner there. It's the red app. Can you get, well, why is that not? Well, it's that little red app there. It's called Now Then. I'm not sure why it won't let you see the, but what it does is it allows you to set up a bunch of time categories. And so you can set up like office work or harvest or delivery or all this different stuff. And I try to get pretty detailed, and you can do subcategories too. So in office, you can say email, or you can say web, or you can say finances, or you can say taxes. And so what I do is I also set it up to every 15 minutes to ping me. And so I'll say, hey, are you tracking right now? Is you still on to be tracking? And what that does is doing a complete audit of your time for an entire week. I like to do it down to the 5 minutes. You could do it down to the 15 minutes, okay? And if you do it down to the 15 minutes, you're gonna still get pretty good data. And then what I do is we take all those tasks, and you can, with that app, you can click out spreadsheets of what you actually did. Then you can give yourself categories of, oh my gosh, I actually spent 6 hours a week on customer service emails. And then you go, I could hire someone for $7 to $10 an hour from the Philippines that would be an excellent customer service person. And I give them the inbox and I say, go through the last month of emails and pull out every single variation of customer service that we've done for a customer. And so then they can go do that. They'll basically build you a customer service protocol for your entire business or your entire CSA. And then them going forward, they're just going to answer all that stuff for you. So that will probably bring your time for customer service down to an hour. So that's the kind of thing, is start to just shed things from your plate. Because again, your time as a farmer, well, any business owner, you should be scheduling 80% of your time, and you should have 20% free, as I like to call it. And again, that's always going to fill up, but you never want to be scheduled more than 80% of the time, because you're always going to have the fires, you have to get the meetings and the phone calls and all that which come up. And I like what Sean says here. Sean says, definitely stick to a plan, but don't plan a schedule that isn't attainable with the amount of manpower you have. Okay, great, right there. So one of the things I really wanted to do this year, Tim, that app is called Now Then. Let me see if I can find it and stick it into it's like a $4, $5 app. See if I can stick it in the chat. Here we go. Yep, I got it. I'm going to stick it right in the chat for you guys. Boom. There, you got it. I think it actually might have only come in through, it might only show up on YouTube, guys, unfortunately. So you Facebook folks can't get it. But Tim, you're on YouTube, so you're good. One of the things I really wanted to do is there was like 3 or 4 crops I wanted to do that we actually cut because I knew I wouldn't have the time for them. There was like 6 or 8 things I wanted to grow for horticulture, like hanging baskets, which we're going to buy in, because I just know we won't have the bandwidth to be able to do that. So again, never give yourself too much to do. I would rather you cut back and just have extra time than to completely overwhelmed and overworked and not get everything done. Because then when we see that happen is when we see people implode. Jerry says, we use the Julian dating system, which is by the day. It works really well when doing our wholesale seeding. Also, it works good for product shelf life. Yeah, product shelf life we're going to use it for. And then wholesale will definitely use it for. Seeding, I would love to kind of hear how you do that in seeding. Do you actually write that into the spreadsheet? I mean, obviously, there's no reason why I couldn't use it. The 52 weeks instead of trying to remember 365 days sounded like a little bit easier. Oh, and then Mary, too, says she's using Smartsheet for project management in several of the organizations I work with. And I was going to use it for planning on our farm venture. I found it useful across multiple types of businesses. I'm not familiar with that one. I've used a bunch of other ones. Right now, our team is using Nifty for the online business. I use Airtable for a lot of stuff. And then this is the thing I use every single day. So this is a 1-page, and the black edge is just because my printer is shot. But it's from the Business Made Simple, Donald Miller's university that he offers. And it basically just walks out through like your primary task for the day, your secondary primary task, your third primary task. And then you have a bunch of secondary tasks which live around the bottom. And then you've got appointments on one side and things you would do differently. So again, it kind of lists out some things. And this just sits at my desk. Right now I work from my desk mostly. Obviously it's in the wintertime, so I use this. Once the summer hits, I'll be outside, and then I'll be going off a lot more of what's on my phone or on that, because that will just be more kind of how I'm operating. So again, it shifts for me a little bit just because of like how our business is set up. But the team is working to get me out of this business as well. Mike's asking, is the labor worth staking tomatoes after planting a few thousand plants and no laborers? Consider a sprawling crop to reduce labor. Mike, if you don't stake, you're throwing money out the door. And actually, I would cut that back by 1,000 plants. If you stake them and do it well, your yield will go up 40 to 50% very easily. Absolutely. Every day. I mean, we actually don't grow outside tomatoes anymore. We only grow them in tunnels. But if you are growing outside, stake is the only way to go. And basket weave is easy. I mean, it's fast. It's easy. Yeah, using an Excel sheet for seeding makes it easy when you have your seed dates in there, so it keeps it simple. Yeah, so we did that. We used to keep it by the week. So obviously, you know, we would just figure out what all the Mondays of every single week was. I can pull that up. Let me see if I can find that. Let me get to the drive and pull up 2014. That was 2014 master. Here we go. Go ahead and share my screen here. Here we go. All right, so you should be able to see that. And obviously you can see every single planting on the farm got a line. And you can see obviously this plan was 634. This, yeah, so it's 2014. But you can see there the date. So obviously you have the ground date, you have the harvest date, you have the container. So we would actually put in the actual date right here. And then obviously that goes off the greenhouse date, you put the days, and so it then kicks you a harvest date, estimated harvest date. And then you can obviously kick it into, another thing too is then sorting all of this too. So obviously with this, you can sort by all those. And then we would print off all the calendars too. So at the beginning of the week, we'd print off a seeding thing, and that would go right to the greenhouse folks, and they would just check it off as they went. I mean, there's no reason why that couldn't go on a iPad. We're actually using iPads and a lot more stuff around the farm, just because then everyone sees exactly what's going on, and there's no chance of paper records being lost. One of the first things we did on our farm was get Wi-Fi that covers the entire farm, blankets the entire farm. So being able to digital records for everything means it's going to happen. Yeah, so that's kind of how we do it. Mike says, thoughts on buying transplants as beginners? What infrastructure is critical for growing healthy plants? Also, is lease place and greenhouse a good option? Yeah, Mike, I absolutely buy transplants. There's a number of massive companies out there that produce them almost cheaper than I can. So in one aspect, there's no really reason to go ahead and grow transplants. The one reason for growing transplants is that you control everything yourself. But if you're working with a large company, they're probably so fastidious about that, they're going to do a great job anyway. Brendan, a number of the folks in our SFU actually buy in transplants. That was one of the things they outsourced their first couple of years because, again, they can make more money growing the transplant. And like when these plant companies are charging $12 to $18 a tray, and some of the seed is so expensive anyway, so it makes the cost of buying the transplants a couple bucks a tray. And you're not going to produce high quality transplants for that. So obviously we're going deep into horticulture. So we're building a $40,000 greenhouse, I think it is, by the time it's going to be done. So yeah, we are investing in that because we know the return will come from the horticulture, and obviously growing our own transplants is just a side aspect of that. Our goal is to be in horticulture big enough that we're actually the one providing the transplants for others in the area. Yeah. So I definitely recommend it. We do, if you want to start a couple thousand transplants, you could definitely start those inside in a germination rack. So behind the camera, you can't see is our light rack. And we'll start the first transplants in there even, and then we'll go outside as well. Let's see here. Mary says, great idea about the farm Wi-Fi. Yeah, we've got cameras too. So if you actually go to the farm on Central, we don't post there a ton, but there's a video on there of a delivery guy dumping a pallet off the back of his truck. And the reason I was able to catch that video was because we had a camera set up on our farm. And so we were able to send that obviously off to the trucking company and get a very embarrassed apology from them about that. Sean says, just built my germination chamber this week. What is the ideal temperature to keep it at? We like to keep it between 75 and 80 degrees. That's kind of a sweet spot for most plants. Sometimes you have to bump it up a little bit, like especially some of these hot peppers, they really want like a 90 degrees. But everything else usually is in that aspect there. Stan says, no buying transplants that come with bugs or disease you lose. Yeah, that is absolutely the downside of that. A grow light and some trace is very cheap. Absolutely. And we're now, we've actually started working with Small Farm Works to start offering lights through them. So we have a brand of light that we use that we researched the entire industry and actually have started importing them from China. Yeah, when you start importing pallets of LED lights, you got to hold on to your wallet because it gets expensive really, really, really fast. But high quality lights is going to make a big difference between really leggy transplants and having nice, short, fat, stocky transplants. But yeah, I mean, if you're working with a reputable company like Banner, I mean, Banner produces, I don't know, 12, 15 acres of transplants a year, and they go all over the East Coast. So, you know, they're very fastidious about it. But I mean, why did 2010, there was a late blight outbreak that broke up and down the East Coast. And that was caused by some of the larger production greenhouses in the South, which were producing transplants for the likes of Lowe's, Home Depot, that sort of thing. They did not catch the late blight in their transplants, and they shipped up the East Coast. And so that's what basically, literally, it like all of a sudden within like 2 weeks was across the entire East Coast, and no one could figure out why. It was because of the garden centers that just distributed that. So yeah, there's definitely pros and cons to that. All right, folks, we've been going an hour. I enjoyed hanging out with you. If you guys have any final questions, go ahead and drop those in the chat there. But this was fun. We kind of got to chat about all different sorts of things, all the fun stuff, time management, transplants, greenhouse structures. Next time, maybe we can cover. Weeding. That would be a good one to cover, is cultivation weeding, because that's definitely going to be something that we're going to be diving into this year as well. All right, folks. Well, good. Yeah. Again, Mike, good to see you. Stan, good to see you. Mary, thanks for coming on tonight. Thanks everyone for hanging out. This was fun. We will do it again. And again, last night to join the Start Your Farm Intensive. This is the live coaching version. So we normally offer the course at $500. Right now it's at $300, and we are doing 4 live coaching sessions and a couple awesome marketing bonuses. Yeah, definitely join us if you're interested in that. And if you're just starting your farm, as Mary said, it's going to be absolute great foundation for you to get started and understand the aspects of business and budgeting and cost analysis and all that. Local Farming Alliance, the 100-foot long, 14 by 7-foot low tunnels, 800 with plastic. That's a pretty good deal. Obviously, be interested to look at what the size of the hoops is, what the type of the plastic is, all that good stuff. So definitely need to figure that out as well. All right, folks, you guys have a great rest of your night, and we'll chat later.